I can't remember if I was supposed to send you any information after our last meeting. Was I supposed to send you something or not? Because I was.
You sent me
Did I say? Oh,
something, but
was it the?
there were links you sent me on Skype.
Oh, okay, the videos. That's what it was. There was something in the back of my mind that I couldn't. I couldn't remember exactly what I had. I'd said there were three videos that I recommended that you watch and take notes. I have a feeling that you didn't do any of them.
Yes, I watched all three videos, but I didn't take the notes because because I when I was watching first video, I was just listening and watching it with a piece of paper and the pen in my hand, and when the video stopped, I just give notice that I have anything written in my paper.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
So I didn't do the notices, and also I can say I am a new person after see those videos, but they were very interesting. I usually don't watch people talking about something because usually it's the same thing or it's a stupidness. But those videos were great.
I think that the interviewer, Lewis Howes, has a very good style and he knows how to ask the right questions at the right times to get the right information. And I think that's a real art. And in my opinion, he is the best interviewer that I have ever seen. His style is very fluent, and the interviews always flow well. And I have learned a lot from watching his interviews. In fact, I think I said before, I usually listen to his interviews while I'm jogging. I usually download them and put them on my MP3 player and then listen to them. And I usually listen 2 or 3 times to each interview because there are usually things that I miss when I listen the first time, which is interesting because I always recommend to students to do 2 things. Number one, listen more than once. Doesn't matter if it's twice, 3 times, 4 times, but listen to everything more than once, because we never fully understand everything with one listen. Um, and the second thing I recommend is always take notes, because we forget a lot of information, and if we have notes, it helps us to remember the information. And I think those 2 things are usually very helpful for students. And it's nice to have the notes as a quick reference. You can look back at them very quickly and you can pick up some key points. I have just finished watching an 8-hour video of Tony Robbins speaking, and all the way through. And can you imagine the content in 8 hours of speaking? The content, it's huge. Like every minute there's something important. And this is for 8 hours. It's more than I think it's 8.5 hours or something. It's more than 8 hours. And as I listen, I always, you can't see it because of the contrast, but I always make notes about things which somebody says which either make sense or they sound interesting, and I need to think about it a little bit more. And this means that I don't have to go back and listen to the 8 hours again. This means that I can review everything hopefully in about 5 or 10 minutes. But the funny thing is I want to go back and listen to the 8 hours again because it was so good. Which is also crazy because Tony Robbins got on my nerves about 6 months ago and I couldn't listen to him at all. And now that I think you have to tune in to people. Communication is like radio stations. You have to tune your brain in to another person's brain so you're on the same frequency and wavelength when you communicate. And my brain was not on the same frequency and wavelength as his brain, so I didn't understand what he was talking about. But I think that I have learned so much in the last 6 months to a year that I now am beginning to understand what he was saying. Because before when he was talking, it was all a bit like nuclear physics to me. And now I am beginning to understand some of the, it's very simple but very practical organizational principles. Um, Simple things like without an objective, nothing can go anywhere. So it doesn't matter what you do, you need an objective in what you do, even in the tiniest little elements of life. So setting that is very important. I made lots of notes today on what he said. It's so practical. Always spend less than you earn, and you will always be rich. It's so simple, but most people can't do it. Most people can't do it. Language, and he was talking about language today, and that's why it was interesting. He said language produces emotion, and emotions produce your flow, your energy for what you do. And people use words like labels to talk about their experience. And if a person is using the words a person uses define their world. So a very basic example is using the difference between positive language and negative language. The difference between something being hard and something being challenging. If you view something as hard, being difficult, then you might not get to the end. But if you view something as challenging, then you can push yourself to succeed, and there's a higher probability of success because you use different words to describe similar things. He was also talking about using the right words in the right way to bring positive value to things around about you. How language gives us definition, definition gives us meaning, meaning gives us a framework, framework gives us a process, and a process gives us an outcome. And it all begins with language. So if there's a problem in anyone's process of doing things, if you can't get what you want, what you have to do is take steps back until you get to the original words that a person spoke. Of course, there's feelings and experience and other things behind those words, but the way that a person uses those words, and not just the words, the tone of their voice, the emotional content there, a lot of solutions can be found when we go back to the original language that a person uses. This is because you can't see into a person's brain. And so you can't just put your hand into someone's head and fix the problem. There's only two ways to try to understand that. One is through observation of what a person does, their activities, and the other is through listening to the words they use. And these are the only two ways to help anyone at all. And he defines success in a very interesting way. He defines success as dividing life into categories of never-ending improvement. And if you can divide life into important categories of never-ending improvement, then you will always grow. And then he does his 5-day seminars basically on those principles, which I'm beginning slowly to understand. Other people understand very quickly his work, but with me, because I'm slow, it's it takes a little bit longer. Oh, there are quite a lot of other things. I won't talk about them all. One more thing that I'll mention that he said, which I liked, was if you have the wrong answer, then you're asking the wrong question. And so that shows to me the power of questions.
Mm-hmm.
The wrong answer comes from asking the wrong question, the same way the right answer comes from asking the right question. So a lot of things to think about. I will dive deeper into his world over the next few months and see what other principles and ideas that he can help me with, which is the great benefit of technology, that people create videos and put them on the net and other people can watch them whenever they want. And he is the person, he is the go-to person when, for example, presidents have problems. President has a problem, they need to find a solution. Who do they call? They call him
Mm-hmm.
and ask him what to do. And not just presidents, or famous people, and anyone with enough money to pay the $10,000 that he charges for an hour of his time or whatever. And so there's something there in what he does. Anyway, didn't plan to talk about that. Didn't plan to talk about that at all. I don't even know how I got started. How did we get onto that? Taking notes. Ah, that was it. 2 principles. I knew it would come back. 2 principles. Always listen more than once to everything, because we miss so much the first time. Which makes me think about life, because basically each conversation in life happens only once.
Yes.
And then I think about how much we miss in each conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's incredible. I have a feeling that most people miss most things most of the time because of my observation of conversation is when I go back and listen again, I always pick up something new. I always hear something I didn't hear or see something I didn't see before. And so always listen more than once and take notes, because it makes the learning process just a little bit simpler and easier. Then, of course, sometimes we don't take notes because we can't find anything that we should write down, or we just get so involved in listening that it becomes more important to listen and focus than to write down notes as well. Actually, earlier today, I was looking at note writing system. 1 second. I will drag and drop this, hopefully. Save onto my desk. Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because there's a little box came up on my computer saying your microphone is not working. But if you can hear me, then obviously it is. Right, let me drag and drop this into the little window on the right. And I was looking for some materials to help some work that I'm doing with students. And when people take notes, everybody takes notes in different ways. And what you can see is what's called the Cornell method of note taking. And it's just a very simple way of not just writing words on a page, but simply dividing the page into 3 parts. And on the right side, you've got your main notes. Part 1 says this is the notes column. During lectures, note main ideas and concepts. Don't mindlessly copy, rephrase what you can into your own words to retain the information. Put lines in between the ideas so you can read things more clearly. Include spaces between topics. Avoid writing incomplete sentences. Use symbols and abbreviations. On the left, it's got the recall column. As soon as possible after the lecture, review the notes. Take the main ideas, key concepts, important facts, and what I would say is the important words. I would just write key words on the left side, and these key words help anchor your brain, anchor the information, in your brain, so that you can find the information more quickly. And then at the bottom, to write a very short summary, perhaps even just one sentence about what all the notes mean to you, what all the notes are about. And just this one, or just a slight change in the way that people take notes can make a huge difference to the amount of information they remember when they think back. Because what you are doing is creating more points in your mind that help you remember the information. It's a very similar thing that people do with color when they highlight text with color. The color creates an extra anchor in the mind to help people recall the information. And just thought might be useful. Or you can be like me, and I end up with little arrows and boxes, and these are my notes. These are my notes for today. Can't really see them, but there's boxes. Can't see anything at all. Here's a
No.
here's a blank piece of white paper. I can honestly, there is something written on it. Let me prove it. I can change. I can make the sunlight disappear using technology. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, make it all darker. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. So I'm always drawing boxes and circling things and putting arrows and separating and trying to find a way to make all the information make sense. Do you have any special way or method or system that you use?
Mm,
No.
no and yes.
Okay.
It's my notes aren't divided to the columns like in this method, but I use arrows. I do the sections like 1, 2, 3, then A, B, C, D, and so when I'm taking note of something, I want to do it like with order.
Mm-hmm. So you create your own order in the notes.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you do that at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end when you're taking notes? So do you plan it at the beginning, or do you order it as you get the information, or do you go back at the end and do it? What do you do?
No, I do it as I get the informations.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Sometimes it's difficult, and when I see that it's a lot information there and is like not so clear, then I write it one more time and I do it better. But I usually do it normally in the moment I'm taking the information.
Yeah, be careful with the word information because it is uncountable in English. Um, where do you think this comes from? This way that you take notes. It sounds very organized and very clear and the right way to do things. Did you get this from someone in your family or a friend at school or a teacher? Where does this system come from?
I really don't know. Mm, I don't know. I have never seen some notes of my parents, for example, and as I can remember, I do it from the basic school.
Wow.
Yes,
That,
when I was 11 years old, when I started to have some um, subjects, some special subject in school, I just make my own style, but it was changing because it is depending of the information I take, and it's it is developing a little bit.
mhm. Okay, depending on, always depending on something.
Mhm.
And it's interesting that you have a good technique, you have a good style. It's not something that everybody uses. It's very helpful, but you're not exactly sure where it comes from.
Mhm.
And there must be some point in time in the past where the style started or developed. There must be something, and I'm not saying that we can remember these things, because a lot of these things we can't remember without a very strong focus on our past. Um, but there must be something that you saw. There must be somebody's uh, organization. Maybe you saw your parents preparing something for their work. Maybe you saw some teacher doing something in school. Maybe you watched a film or saw a TV program where someone was doing it. Who knows where it comes from? Or maybe it's some kind of deep core inner ability that's
Mhm.
part of your personality. Who knows? I remember when I was young seeing my father sitting at the kitchen table creating tables with numbers that he needed to do for his work. And I remember that I saw that a lot, and I think it probably had some effect on me. I also saw my mother making lesson plans for what she was teaching in school, and I'm sure that had an effect on me as well. Although after you do anything for a longer period of time, you tend to take most plans and you make a plan, but you tend to just throw it away after a period of time. It's a bit like a strategy for playing a football game. You prepare everything on paper, and then the football players go out, and when they play the game, it's all completely
And play
different.
basketball, no?
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. The 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 end result is usually not quite what we planned in the first place, and that's just the way that life rolls, really. So it's interesting. It's all interesting. I'm a great, as I said, I'm a fan of note taking. I think note taking in any form extremely important. Whether you write things down or you record audio or video or whatever. Um, I've heard people, I've heard that some people use Snapchat as a way of creating a video diary of their day.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, they review their day through the little Snapchat videos that they've made. And maybe a person making one little Snapchat video might not make sense to anybody. Like, why is a person doing that? But it makes sense to that person when at the end of the day they look back and they put all the videos together and they're able to see where they were and who they were with and what happened and maybe some ideas or inspiration that they had. Um, it's my principle with videos. That's why I try to record everything I do and connect everything together because I forget so many things. Right. Right. Do you want to talk a little bit about the videos? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you remember?